This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am here with Mr. Ruben Elmer, a gentleman I've known for many years, who is now, along with his business partner, heading up the Case for Wine. How are you today?
I'm well, Jamie. Thank you.
Now, before we get into the Case for Wine, tell us a little bit about your history. I know you've been on the sommelier and wine scene for quite some time. I'm not saying you're an old bastard by any means, but you have been around the block a few times.
A couple of times. I first moved to Toronto when I was about 21 from London. I got into the wine business. I'm working as sommelier in many restaurants around town.
Would you mind mentioning some of those?
Sure. I worked as sommelier at Canoe, Auberge de Pommier, going back, that some people may not remember, Black and Blue, Prego, 4 or 5 of, at the time, were kind of the wine spots around town.
Yes, I remember that. I wasn't aware that you worked at Black and Blue. I did a little stint there before I was legally able to. Yes, with Michael back in the day. That was an interesting introduction to Toronto restaurants for sure.
It was great. I was probably 23, 24 years old, and I was in charge of the cellar.
Which was way down in the bottom of the parking garage.
It was in the car park.
Yeah.
And it was full of wine that you really, unaffordable wine these days. And Michael, knowing Michael, he opened them all up. Every night there'd be great Burgundy, great Italians, just for the staff to drink, which may have been a bit of a downfall, but it was good for us at the time.
If you caught him on a good day, he could be incredibly generous.
Yeah,
I miss
Michael.
That.
Great guy. Great to his customers. Yeah, you're right. If you get him on the wrong day, you have hell to pay, but on the right day it will be fun.
Well, Toronto is a much lesser place without him on the restaurant scene, that's for sure. So how long were you at Black and Blue for?
I worked at Black and Blue for about 3 years.
Oh, really? Was that pre-Anne Martin or post-Anne Martin?
That was post.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
So I helped out when Anne was there. Yeah. And then where did you go from Black and Blue? You went into the OB group?
I went to the OB group. I worked at Auberge de Pommier for 4 years as the somm, and then I transferred down to Canoe for, I think, 3 years.
3 years, goodness. There's so many great people have gone through the OB conveyor belt, shall we say. But some of the best people in the business. I'm thinking about Anton, I'm thinking about Will Predom, all those people that I love to hang about with. What do you think it is that's so special about the OB empire that makes for such great people?
I think back then, I can't speak right now, it was the culture. We had a really great culture of chefs, of sommeliers, general managers, and the ownership. They were very hands-on back then, and you'd see them every day. Peter and Michael, they'd be in doing walk-arounds, having dinner, having a lunch. It was extremely hands-on, and everybody was very passionate and detailed. So you either survived or you didn't. So
interesting. Now, what was it that drew you towards the dark side and the selling of wine, and how did that transpire?
I got to a point working as a sommelier where I realized I had reached, in this city, I couldn't go any further. I wanted to learn the business of wine. Working as a sommelier, you get wined and dined and you get to taste great wines. But one thing you don't learn as a somm is the inherent business of the wine, which is very interesting, and you should be careful what you wish for, because it can be murky. It can be a murky business, but it is more interesting, for me anyway, than working in a restaurant as a somm.
And what was your first introduction to working in the business side of wine?
I was hired by Profile Wine Group after I left Canoe, and I worked there for 11 years. I ran their sales team. We had a great sales team. It was a great company, lovely people. They hired me. We looked after the portfolio with the 2 owners. So I had 11 years of working with one of the top companies.
Oh yeah, sure.
Well,
they've always been great supporters of Good Food Revolution, so we have lots of good things to say about Profile, that's for sure. Now, you have now struck out on your own, albeit with a business partner. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Sure. At the end of last year, 2017, my partner Roberto and I, we purchased the Case for Wine, which has been in business for 20 years. Started by Terry and Lloyd. Lloyd Evans used to be the buyer for the Classics catalog at the CBO. Yes. So one thing that attracted us to the company was it's 20 years old, it's been successful, but I can tell you it has a portfolio of suppliers and growers that some of the best in the world. We're talking artisanal, tiny production, a real farmer-based grower mentality. That's what attracted us to because it could take another 20 years to put a group of suppliers like that together that are au fait with working in the market, restaurants, and the LCBO. It's that's what attracted us. The other side of the business, we have some kind of wildly successful wines listed in the LCBO, which enable us to invest in the consignment part of the business. It's really difficult to just have consignment, and it's less difficult to just have German list and vintages, but you're kind of left with an Achilles heel where you can't sell to restaurants, and a lot of the top producers, they want to see the wine in restaurants,
of course, yes,
not just the shelves.
Yeah. That's always a quandary when suppliers are working with certain agencies. Many agencies excelling in the consignment side of things, less so with the LCBO. Other people doing great work with the LCBO, but less in restaurants. And I think it's difficult to find an agency that finds some kind of balance there. And that must be a great challenge for you.
It is a big challenge. We have been lucky enough to attract specialists in their field. You know, someone who specializes in selling to vintages,
right?
List,
yes, yeah.
Someone who specializes in the consignment part of the business, and we're attracting other people that are looking to work for kind of independent agencies with more interesting wine and a lot more potential than what we see in the market right now.
With regards to the future evolution of the case for wine, how do you see you and your business partner respecting the legacy left by Terry and Lloyd, but evolve, I guess, and I guess introduce new suppliers? Yeah,
Terry and Lloyd, they still work with us for a couple of hours every morning. They come to our office, and it's nice to have someone with that kind of corporate memory. Sometimes we need to call a supplier, and we know Terry and Lloyd will know they'll be at a certain restaurant at a certain time, and we can call them there and get an answer. So
very cool.
That's kind of invaluable. But we do plan to grow the company. Historically, we've specialized in Italy and France. But I've been on the road a lot for the past few months in the US, Germany, the New World. So we plan on being a company that can supply everybody with some of the best wines from around the world.
Now, you mentioned Germany. Historically, the wines of Germany have been a little bit of a hard niche sell in the restaurant market, for sure. How do you see yourself breaking into that market?
Yeah. German wines for me, would not be something we would concentrate on for consignment. It would be more for the LCBO, for vintages.
I see. Yeah.
It's
Is there a market for better German wines within vintages?
I think so.
Ah, fantastic.
Yeah, a lot of young suppliers, I mentioned to you before. It's nice because now I'm dealing with suppliers the same age as me. So historically we've been dealing with 60, 70, 80-year-old owners, proprietors, winemakers. So it's nice to have a new generation who think differently, and they want to come and work in our market and expose their wines. And there's a different attitude. It's a fresh face of the wine business all around the world right now.
Fantastic. That's very heartening to hear.
Yeah.
Now, will you be having any kind of portfolio tasting in the future?
We will. I think at the beginning we may do smaller, more decisive tastings. At the moment we're specializing in the wines of Piedmont. We've just been offered such great wine from great vintages that we have a slew of great wines from that region. So we plan on doing a portfolio tasting, but it might just be only the wines of Piedmont. So it's like 5 or 6 top growers. We will do that. We may travel around, a couple of the larger cities in the province and do it that way at the beginning, as opposed to bringing everybody in from France and Italy. So we're trying to be a little more decisive in those tastings.
Fantastic.
And I'd like to mix up the portfolio tasting. It needs to be refreshed. It needs to be a fresh face and a different dynamic to what people have offered before.
There has been a lot of the same for decades now.
Same. And
yeah.
I don't have the answer, but it's something that we think about a lot, how to keep it fresh.
Super. Well, I will keep my eyes and ears open with regards to what you're doing, with regards to rejuvenating the idea of a portfolio tasting. Ruben Elmer, you're an absolute natural on camera. Thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today.
Thanks, Jamie.
Bye for now.